COVID-19 has accelerated our use of technology. How we work and where we work has all potentially changed forever. And this presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
The market pressure means that if you're not being more and more efficient, someone else will, and you will be dying. And that's true for like a big company, that's true for a startup, but that's true for a small business operation in like a local area.
This is Beyond the Capital from Supertech, a new series that explores the future of technology in the world of work. Our focus is the tech scene that's flourishing outside of London. I'm Hilary Smyth-Allen, and I'm involved in the technology adoption agenda and passionate about opportunities across the UK. In this episode, we're exploring how no-code development is revolutionising the world of app building. I spoke to Jof Walters of Million Labs, co-founder of the UK's only no-code incubator, and to Emmanuel Straschnov, co-CEO and founder of Bubble, one of the leading platforms for creating no-code apps. Well, thank you for joining us. Could we start with you, Emmanuel? What is no-code? What's the movement all about?
Hi, thank you very much for having me here. The no-code movement is about enabling people to do things without code that used to require code. And that can be applied to a lot of different things. We at Bubble decided to target one specific thing, which is creating like general purpose web applications, which I think is one of the most exciting uses of no code, but you could see that in a lot of other places. So it's really about taking, what used to take years of training to achieve and making it more accessible through better tooling.
It's really that simple.
Yeah, in many ways, I would say no code is what technology is about pretty much since the beginning. It wouldn't be stretched to say that Windows, compared to MS-DOS, was no code when we started it. MS-DOS was about typing code to edit a text. You had to type a command. I used to do that when I was a kid, but I forgot which one it is. And, after Windows came, you just double click and that was working, right? And so here we talk about the same thing, not to use the computer, but to program the computer. So it's just adding another layer of sophistication to the tools. But again, this is what technology is about. Technology is about making tools more and more accessible to everyone.
So is that the mission of Bubble?
Very much so. We started a long time ago, actually 2012, because it does take quite a long time to get the product right. But we started the company in 2012 looking at, all these people that had great ideas, but just didn't have the technical training to start them and get them off the ground. And we felt that it was, a shame that only 1 or 10% of these ideas could actually happen because of how hard it is to find engineers. And so we decided, let's just change the way people build things so that it's more accessible to everyone. And I'm hoping we have a similar impact to what Windows and Macintosh had on the technology industry, which again managed to turn billions of people into creators instead of just consumers.
So genuinely anyone can do this?
Yeah, so to be specific, it's a long journey, right? So today, I wouldn't make the claim that anyone can use Bubble very easily. It does take some training. It does take a learning curve, which we assess, depending on how tech savvy you are, between 5 to 15 hours, we think. But the goal is going to be to, shorten that as much as possible over time. It's already, if I may, quite revolutionary today that we can enable people after a few hours to have the same power as software engineers. But we're working every day trying to make the learning curve a little bit shorter and the product easier. And the goal eventually is, yes, to make sure that anyone can start building software. Today, we're not there yet, but we've probably expanded the number of people that can create software from 1 to 100, given that way more people today, for each engineer, I can probably find 100 people in the world that can use Bubble.
Wow. The fact that you talked in terms of hours there, not days, even, normally months, etc., that's probably a very exciting proposition. But is it really here? We've heard about the promise of just being able to build apps like that for a number of years. It's sort of the future. Is it now?
I'm not necessarily the best person to comment on that. You should, ask users and they would tell you that, yes, it is real. It's right. We're in a field that is a little bit strange compared to a lot of other fields in the technology world where, there is in Silicon Valley this idea that, fake it until you make it, right? This is not something that applies to our field because you're right. There is a lot of skepticism behind this idea because people have made that promise for like decades. And the fact that today people are still learning, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in school mean that, we haven't really succeeded that at scale. It's not, I'm not like that personally. Like I don't tell things that are not true. And I think it's actually very important in our space to do that because otherwise you would just reinforce the skepticism. But yes, today it is true. We've seen people that are non-technical that, discovered Bubble in the same year were able to raise, millions of dollars of funding for their startup because what they were trying to do was to create a startup and they build the product entirely themselves. Yeah.
So that's probably a good way to segue to you, Jof,
Hello.
on the more user side of things. And as a user, as a person supporting founders, does that resonate?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you look at where we were in January when we first started, we would look to work with about 5 founders in any given month, and that would be a busy month for us. And our job was helping founders to get from a PowerPoint presentation with an idea on it to their first piece of technology in the market and trading. And our interest is, of course, to find those founders that build something truly amazing so that we can invest in it. That's what we look to do. We've already signed up 100 founders in December into Million Labs. The volume has just exploded, and it's a twofold effect. It's the effect of platforms like Bubble, allowing those founders to get to market a darn sight quicker than they would have done last year or the year before. And sadly, it's also the effect of COVID. We've got a lot of people that have time on their hands and are looking to make changes to their lives, and they've decided to become startup creators. It has to be said, 90% of people that come into Million Labs are startups. It's a platform. No code is a thing that resonates massively with that startup community, and so it's kind of supercharged it. It has to be said, 70% of the people that come to Million Labs are using Bubble.
That's really interesting because I wanted to explore the how do Million Labs and Bubble come together then, in particularly in a UK context.
So we're really proud to say that we teach a lot of Bubble bootcamps. A lot of the founders that come and ask us to develop MVPs, minimum viable products for the uninitiated, ask us to use Bubble to do that. And so, a lot of founders are seeing Bubble as a way to get over that hump of how do I get instead of spending $250,000 on building something in code to see whether people want to use my idea, actually I'm going to spend more like 100 hours or, maybe if they're getting an agent to do the work, $10,000 to get my idea to market. That's kind of what we see Bubble doing for us, and actually no code in general doing for founders and doing for our community.
It's super interesting. I'm just curious as to what led you to doing this now. I mean, Jof, your banking background?
Yeah, I think I'm very bullish about no code. The way I look at the sort of pre-seed and seed market, which is what I'm interested in, is that we can get founders to a stage that we just couldn't get them to at a rate that we couldn't get them there a year ago. And what I know is that means that we've got to rethink the entire way we invest in small businesses, and we're going to see new types of small businesses being created that we never would have seen before. And so for me, 2020 has been all about learning actually what changes when Bubble becomes used at in anger. What changes in the sort of early stage digital startup world. And the evil reason for that is, thank you for reminding me, Hilary, I am a banker. I would like to take a small stake in quite a lot of businesses to see if I can't find a horse in that race, which turns out to be very, very successful. If we talk about we'd like to see the first unicorn in no code, I think I'd also like to see a lot of small to medium sized enterprises that are sustainable digital businesses being started this way. And frankly, my sort of philanthropic side, we've got a lot of people that are being made redundant at the moment that are losing their jobs because of what's been going on this year. I like to see it being a way that we can get people back into work as well. So, that's a huge part of this journey for me.
Does that accord with the Bubble experience or the view you're seeing? I'm conscious you're in the US, so how does it look from that side of the pond? Definitely.
I mean, there's not much difference, I think, on this one between, US, the UK, the United States, France, like Germany, even in emerging markets, we actually see Brazil is one of our strong countries where people have the same problems. At the end of the day, and I think Jof presented it very well, this year in particular, so two things happening. Tools got better, and Bubble in particular, but the whole industry, because as you pointed out, it does take time to get to a product that actually delivers on the promise that is being made here. And I think we saw kind of an inflection point with a lot of tools. And at the same time, the economic dynamics and like the sanitary situation has made that a lot of people are just, being left out of the job market, and they need to they need ways to reinvent themselves a little bit from a skill standpoint. And that one is not actually COVID. Software is here to stay. All businesses today have to be online in one way or another. And most of the productivity gains you would gain as a company are done through technology. And so that's why it's so important to enable people to start companies or start products for the businesses that they're already working at themselves, because you can't live in a world where everything is done by, a few tens of thousands or maybe 100,000 people in the world, which is fundamentally what we're seeing the technology world to be right now.
You're listening to Beyond the Capital with me, Hilary Smyth-Allen. Please do rate, review and subscribe on your normal podcast app. And do get in touch if you have topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. To reach us, email us on hello@supertechwm.com. I'm wondering, having reflected on the story, the examples of founders and people upskilling, where does this fit into established businesses?
Because established businesses also need to innovate and invest on their technology solutions to work better. Like the market pressure means that if you're not being more and more efficient, someone else will, and you will be dying. And that's true for like a big companies, that's true for a startup, but that's true for a small business operation in like a local area. And today it is very challenging for them because they would have to spend, $50,000, $100,000 for a local development shop to build something that will be delivered, like let's say a better tool to manage your clients, a better tool to manage your invoicing, like to try to automate a lot of those tasks that if you don't, someone else will, and you will be, again, irrelevant in the marketplace. And the challenge, if you go to a local development shop or if you go to an offshore solution, through the offshore platforms in more low-cost countries, is that very often it's going to take a very long time to get the solution. And the world's changing so fast that what's going to end up being delivered once you're done will not be adapted to the current business situation. And it's going to be actually pretty complicated to explain exactly what you have in mind to the outsourcing company. And so you're going to end up having something late that does not exactly fit your need, and that was not what you had in mind in the first place. So the solution here is to tell people, build it yourself. Again, spend a few hours it is to learn, but then you can build it yourself, so you'll be able to get exactly what you have in mind because you built it, and you'll be able to change it and tweak it as the business solution circumstances change, so that you always have a tool that just fits your business.
Can I hop in just briefly?
Oh, go on, hop in, Jof.
Just to give you an idea of the application of no-code, we had 2 projects go live this year for one of the largest, in fact, I think the second or third largest technology brand in the world. Both no-code projects, and the feedback that we got on those, and we still work with that client, the feedback that we got on those projects was that we could get a project away to market, something unique, something different that they wanted to try. They didn't know whether it would work, so exactly the same profile as a founder. We got that done quicker than they could hire a project manager to start thinking about that project. So this, for a major business, is a great way of finding out, innovating, tackling internal challenges, tackling customer challenges, trying things. And just to be clear, both of those projects are still live on their no-code platforms. They didn't move them off the no-code platform and turn them into code. They've just continued to trade them in no-code. That's if one of the largest companies in the world is doing that, there's no real limitation to where we can apply the strengths of a no-code tool.
That was going to be my idea. It sounds like the only limit is your imagination, if I'm hearing that correctly. In terms of then the productivity aspect of that has clear economic benefits beyond the individual business and for a region. And I understand, Jof, that you're looking at that within the context of the West Midlands.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is where I live. I live in the centre of the UK. I tell our clients, if you stick a pin in the roof of my house, you can spin Great Britain round on it. And I've been part of the sort of tech community in that region for a very long time. One of the directors of one of the large tech communities here. And for us, we see no code giving us two real ways of encouraging growth in the region. First of all, we want to start businesses here. We want to see new businesses up and trading. But secondarily, we want to see people learning those tech skills and being able to use them to get back into work, into different jobs, or even taking the tech skills that they're learning on no-code platforms and using them to generate better outcomes for the businesses that they're in. So what we're doing right now is we're bringing a huge no-code training platform in partnership with local government into the central region. We're using Bubble as the platform that people will learn to build on. We're doing a 6-week bootcamp training them to use Bubble and build their own technology. And we have a follow-on 6-week bootcamp for those people that want to become founders to kind of pre-incubate them and help them take their idea and turn it into something that they can actually make money out of. And for us, the real, I guess, how to voice that in a way that might be understood by everybody. Normally, if I was to take somebody through a coding boot camp so that they could become a very, very junior coder, that would be 16 weeks full time, and the cost is around £8,000 to get them there. If I do that on Bubble, I can get to a much better outcome in 12 hours for a few £100. And if I want to supercharge my local economy, that's the cheapest way I can get the best outcome for the people right now. And that's a real thing for me. There is no more important time for us to move and try and improve people's lot than now.
So I'm thinking about the audience. We have a lot of professional services firms, really big part of the West Midlands economy. And yet I can hear them thinking about law tech, prop tech, fintech, your background, and saying that's all well, but it won't work here because of X, Y, and Z. So how would you respond to, such human-centric knowledge management-based expertise, all of that? What would you say?
I get that. I think, first of all, we started our journey with a fintech build, which was built on Bubble. And the way that we achieve, a lot of the control that we require to meet the kind of regulatory standards of financial services, which is as high, might be different, but is as high as some of the regulatory standards in other markets, is a lot of that can be done within the box. It's just the same building something properly in a no-code platform as it is building it properly in a code platform. However, where we need to have specific kind of controls that are outside of the tools that are available to us, platforms like Bubble have the ability to extend into external services. So we can use, in fact, we built AI tools and we built video conferencing systems, and we built all sorts of things which call off to external technologies to do jobs which aren't necessarily in the box, if you like. And
yet Million Labs is one of the few, if not only, in the UK actively out there doing and promoting it.
Yeah, well, it's very new. Emmanuel and the team at Bubble have been around since 2012. But it's funny. I've been investing in businesses for a very long time, and we always say that there are phrases that people put in their pitch deck. There's we've been through cryptocurrency and blockchain and AI and machine learning, and the interesting thing is, I think we're now starting to see no code being the phrase that people put in their pitch deck. So it's the year for no code, or the years for no code have arrived, and it might have taken a little while for that to be the phrase that people are using, and you can argue how relevant it is, or what's in that phrase and what isn't in that phrase, and all those things that the community does. That's a little bit navel gazing. I just see it as the promise of anybody being able to build their own technology without having to be a coder has matured. That's how I voice it.
Do you have a favourite example, each of you?
Example of what can be built?
a favourite application, or it doesn't have to be necessarily sophisticated, just something people can relate to that you like?
So I think to date we got about 800,000 applications built on us, so it's a lot. One example that comes to mind pretty recently, that the person emailed me from France and telling me that without being technical at all, he had built a little web application to basically replace the in-person classes that you would get when you're a pregnant woman. Because it's something real that has been happening right now, is that all these classes are canceled, and some of them do them via Zoom, but he was trying to find a way to create some kind of like a dynamic diary for women when they're pregnant. And so basically walking through you the different steps and asking you questions to know whether you're feeling the right thing at the right time.
Jof, have you got a favourite example?
I think my favourite, and I have to give a shout out to Truckzilla. Truckzilla is a startup founded by an 8-year-old girl and her dad. And they built an application that allows 8-year-olds who really care about this sort of thing to locate where the ice cream truck is in their local community. So they don't have to wait for it to drive past the end of their road. They can go find it and go get an ice cream.
They're amazing examples, really human and real life examples. If you're all sat listening to this, what would you do next? If you're in that professional services firm, knowing that technology is something on the horizon, knowing that this is fundamental to probably the firm's existence over the next decade, yet you are too small perhaps to have your own department, and this could be an eye-opener, what next?
It's really simple. Don't go into your IT department. Your IT department already know how to build stuff. That's their job today. Take every junior person in your office that's got a spare, 10% of their day, and they all have if you're a professional services firm, and send them on a boot camp like the one we're just about to launch locally. Send them on a boot camp, train them to use a no-code platform, and say to them, use the platform to solve problems in this business. Come with an idea. Show me something that's going to make us more efficient, more successful with our customers, and let them amaze you. And they will, because they'll come up with things that the boardroom and the marketing teams wouldn't come up with, because they're too laser focused on what you're doing day to day.
There are plenty of ways to get involved here. The most direct way, and that's what we see every day on Bubble specifically, is people coming on our platform and learning the platform on their own. We try to make the learning curve as easy as possible with documentation, video tutorials, and interactive lessons, and then a little bit of playing around for a few days, and then you can start building a project if you have one. That said, what we found out in practice is that a lot of people want a little bit more help as they are learning the platform. And so we started some educational programs that we run ourselves. So we call that our no-code bootcamps, where over 8 weeks we teach people how to use Bubble.
So picking up off the back of what Emmanuel said, we are absolutely doing exactly that. We're launching, in partnership with Supertech, a series of professional services boot camps, which are rolling for 6 months in the UK. We've got people joining those boot camps from actual professional services businesses, and we've got people joining from the universities across the West Midlands that are looking to enter into the professional services space. We've got founders that are, coming into professional services and building fintechs, regtechs, proptechs, coming into a series of boot camps to learn how to build their own technology in no code. So we're supercharging their technology skills. And then, for those that are looking at launching a startup, that move on into a kind of pre-incubator program where we teach them how to, launch a business in a kind of lean startup method way, how to get their first 100 customers, first 1,000 customers, how to pitch for investment, how to do all of those wonderful things.
I feel like I can hear the weight of professional services firms and the concept of teaching a lawyer to code just disappearing into the ether in a big, massive sigh of relief, because I'm sure everyone thinks lawyers are good at law, and teaching them to code is one solution, and maybe we don't need to go down that path now. Thank you ever so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
That was Jof Walters of Million Labs and Emmanuel Straschnov of Bubble, speaking to me, Hilary Smyth-Allen. You've been listening to Beyond the Capital podcast from Supertech, a new series that explores the future of technology in the world of work. Please do rate, review and subscribe on your normal podcast app. And do get in touch if you have topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. To reach us, email us on hello@supertechwm.com.